Okay, let's give this another whirl. Can't see myself, so give me a second and I will wait until some people join. My apologies to you guys. I don't know what happened, but this other phone that I was on wouldn't connect to my hotspot. So I apologize, but I am trying to actually see if y'all can see me or not. So I think I have two lives going because it won't let me shut the other one down. I don't know. It's just spinning and spinning. So thank you guys for visiting my channel. We're going to try this again. Okay, so you can see me. That was my biggest thing. I wanted to make sure y'all can see me. Sorry about that. Make sure the camera, because it's so bright. Trying to lose the glare. Anyway, okay. All right. we're on. Again, I apologize to you guys. Those who were on before. Let's do that. When I want it bright, it's not bright. And when I don't want it bright, or when y'all know what I was trying to say. So, okay. Hey, you guys. I don't remember what I was talking about before it froze. So, my apologies to you guys that were on. But again, welcome. Thank you guys for visiting my channel. It's always fantastic to chat with you all. Those who have time in the middle of the day, in the evening, or whatever, my channel will be, I've toyed with starting a whole new channel because I think it's kind of hard to reinvent the wheel, but we'll see. It'll be travel, all things travel. So I'll be going back into my backlogs and trying to post some maybe more shorts to start of some of my previous travel experiences and stuff like that, because I have so much stuff. And sometimes I get overwhelmed with what to even start to post, because I'll be looking at something, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then I'm looking at something else, and then I'm thinking about all these cool reels that I see, and should I do it a reel or do it as a reel, or, but a short would be fantastic. It's probably good enough. Let's see, trying to get myself, because it seems like I'm so far away. And then, there'll be some live chats. You guys see my live talks and stuff. And that's usually just stuff that is intriguing to me. Topics that are intriguing, stuff that's going on in the world, and I'm just going to start sharing it from a tips perspective, my perspective, where I am with those types of ideas, and really just kind of getting a pulse for the folks who follow me. What do you guys think about some of this stuff? So it'll be more of that kind of stuff. So if you're a follower and you used to follow me for some of the other things like radio, I'll still be doing talks, so it'll be something similar to that, but I'm going to be gearing more to the travel stuff. I've had a lot of experience in the last 20 months. And I do want to share that. I want to share my travel experience specifically, because there's a lot of, we're in the climate of travel. We're in the climate of try something new, do something different. Because if you don't, honestly, we're not promised life even tomorrow. So we do really have to live for the fullest today. And I know like some people think that's so cliche, but how many people do we know that, have, passed on or whatever the case may be. And you know that they didn't live their fullest life by their own, commentary and things when they were here. You hear people talk about all the things that they want to do. And I just was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about, and they're younger than me. And I'm thinking probably almost 15 years younger than me. And they were talking about waiting until after they're 50 to start traveling. And I was just like, aghast, like, don't wait. Don't wait. Even if it's traveling within the States, don't wait. It's the land may still be here, but we're not promised, to live another 15 years, to live another 1 year, let alone 15. So I always just try to, I will nudge. I will do some nudging when it comes to travel. And it's because there's so much that you can get from travel that you really can't get from any other experience. There's just, travel in itself is its own educational tool. And it's so enriching. And, it's just one of those things that I personally, stake. Like if I could put stock in the word travel alone, I would own a million. Excuse me. A million shares. Oh, excuse me. Y'all, I'm not even sleepy. I'm just yawning. So anyway, you guys know I started sharing some tips on renting your house. If you should rent your house, if you should consider, doing short term, meaning like, booking.com, Airbnb, Verbo, all those kinds of things, or selling, depending on, whatever route you're going. And, what's some of the do's and the don'ts of renting your house. I might change the title to more do's and don'ts, or more don'ts, more do's because of the don'ts. And so I did a video before on my TikTok, and I did like 3 tips, and I have like 5 more that I'm picked out of this list that I want to share with you guys. A good part of it is, where do you start, and what things to think about when you start, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, Elle, I'm traveling. I'm over traveling because I can't stand coming back. I just want to settle abroad as an expat. Where are you now? Where are you? I don't know why. Okay. And I feel you. I'm the same way. Listen, there we go. Maybe these adjustments. Whew, I need a camera crew. Where are you right now? Because I feel the same way. Like, I dread coming back, which is why it took me longer. It took me longer after I left Kenya. Because I didn't want to come back, and it turned out that I needed the Thailand trip. Like, I needed it from so many different aspects, and from my own personal growth and realizations, and just making decisions. I hadn't really even made the decisions that I'm making now. I hadn't even, I was thinking about them, but I hadn't really, set in stone, some of these things that, I'm even chatting with you guys about today, and things to share. But I had to go through I'm still going through a cleansing process. And I say all that because it's like, until you leave the States, or wherever you're from, but I'll just talk about the States because I don't know if everything is this way. But until you actually leave the States, and I mean leave where you have enough time to unpack, like, not your suitcase, but the suitcase that you're wearing inside your body, that's protecting you, shielding you, or covering you, or rose-colored glasses in you. That's a new word. You know, until you have time to unpack and sit in the space of, this is not America or one of the Americas. This is not the United States. And how is this different? How does this feel different? Allow yourself to kind of immerse into the space that you're in when you're traveling until you, you know, can do that. Because a lot of times your short travel just doesn't allow this. There's just not enough time to really kind of sink in. Like everything, most places, any place we go, very rarely do you hear out of the masses of people who travel who have a horrible time. Some people have incidents and things like that. So not to negate that, but most of the time, anywhere we go, we're just overwhelmed and happy about being able to get away. But sometimes, doing longer travel, you see things from a different perspective and you start to question the things that we hold so dear in the States. One being our homes, and not that we shouldn't, but how do we set up our homes to be an asset and not an asset after 30 years or 2 refis and a partridge in a pear tree? But how do we set ourselves up so that, we're taking advantage of it now as, a part of, as a true asset, right? And not just a tax write-off asset, unless you're like writing off 100% of everything, maybe you've got it rolled in an S Corp or an LLC, which I'm learning, those kinds of things. I'm learning the true benefit of having no name. Something I will gladly take on. A face with no name. That was one of Michael Jackson's songs, y'all. So anyway, you're in Michigan trying to figure out an income I can make abroad. Yeah, that's kind of where I am too. I've got to do some things, and y'all, I'm spring cleaning, literally spring cleaning. And I didn't even know this house could store this much stuff. But in addition to that, what can I do with the businesses that I've already started, the things that I truly love, the things that really fit my purpose, like why I'm here and, what I just do naturally every day. How do I reinvent those? Because those are still standing businesses. My beauty and bath line, my travel business, meaning, I have, I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I have a travel course that's out, and I'll be rolling out another one, but I'm trying to get some other things done so that when I do the second part of this travel course, it's like with freeness, and not a rush thing, and not something where I'm not really tapping into, all the emotional parts and the vulnerable parts, or just the educational parts that I want to be able to share in part 2. Part 1 is fantastic if you're starting, or if you're trying to figure out where you want to go, how you want to go, or, those kinds of things. It's like the foundation of getting the ball rolling. And I'm also kind of, I'm teetering and playing in this field of what to do from a digital standpoint, and courses is like, it's the big thing now, is just to start courses. So I haven't really been successful because I don't think very many people know I have a course, because I am horrible at marketing, and go figure what my job was for the last 19 years. Yeah. So anyway, I'll be working on some of those things, and then some other ways to actually save money as I travel. As a budgeter, a travel budget person, soloer. And that makes it a little bit more expensive too when you're traveling by yourself. So I got to find different ways, because I move a little bit different, when you're going on a set number of days of travel. It's easier to travel with other people when you kind of travel like I do, which is kind of really nomadic and off the cuff with no deadlines or anything like that. It's harder to travel with other people, but If I get settled like I once was before, in the last 20 months, then, people can visit and you can kind of, budget things like that. But even that can be expensive, and I can do like a whole video on that. But I started talking about some of the tips for renting your house. Should you try to make money while you're gone? If you have a house that's just sitting, is it advantageous to rent that house out? Rent it out long term. If you know you're going to be gone 6 months, or you're going to be gone a year. I met some people and they are gone for a year. They're teaching abroad. They have contracts for a year already. Some people just knew that they were going to take a whole year. And so they went through the processes of, cleaning up. I met so many people who just completely cut ties with wherever home was and got up and left. And I was sitting there thinking, dang, I just went on vacation, and it just kept going and going and going. And I was like, okay, now you got to come back and figure out something. And so I just so y'all know, I pseudo rented my house. So these tips that I'm sharing most of them are do's that I figured out from the don'ts, from the mistakes that I made, or not preparing it that way, or I don't know, not really thinking through what I was doing, because I had a plan, and then I got over there and didn't want to come back, and I could afford to not come back, right? But of course I can't do that forever, because, I probably could if I was bringing in, the income that would be favorable. But with the market the way that it is in the US, I ran up on a number of things that started to kind of be a negative. And so I actually am not going to be talking about that aspect today, like the financial part. But I will say, being here in the States, I did find that upon coming back, how much things have increased. In 1 month, I've been here a month and a sprinkle of days, and the amount of that I've paid in food prices, the amount that I've paid in food is what I was paying in rent. So, I was paying a little bit more in rent. But $400 a month, or $100 a week, and y'all know I'm plant-based, and sometimes we're like, oh, that can be expensive, but it's most of the stuff I'm not even buying, because I had so much like non-perishable pastas and beans, and that stuff don't ever go bad, and I forgot I had all that stuff here. So mostly just buying fruits and vegetables, but it's just more expensive. Like a lemon is 60 to 80 cents for one lemon. I don't even eat lemons, so let's say limes. So limes are about 53 to 60 cents a piece. They're worth $3-4 before. Avocados are like 98 cents a piece, and kind of just depends on where you're going. But I'm talking about even Wally World, y'all. And so just that alone, I'm just like, okay. And then home insurance policies, my car insurance went up. Interest rates went up. So if you own a home and you may have an escrow account or whatever, or even if you don't, but you do lump sum payments on your taxes, all of that went up. And so, just accounting for those fluctuations and not knowing where that fluctuation is going to end is somewhat nerve-wracking. And for me, my last trip out to Thailand, I was paying, like I said, for rent, which is usually your highest expense. I was paying in rent when I'm paying for food here. So I was trying to get my food bill down to $25 a week there, and I was at like 35. But that's because I was eating chips every day. Ooh, it was bad. And I get here and I'm spending 96, and I'm, I may be buying more things because, am I? Maybe because I'm not buying noodles. I don't know, because I'm getting fruit, and I don't even get the fruit I would really love to have that I had access to over there. Nothing against our fruit, but I would consider that to be exotic. So, so anyway, I think I was saying before I cut off on the other video, or maybe I was saying at the beginning of this video, I don't even remember, that travel ed is like the best education that we can give ourselves. And so if you have an opportunity to do so, do it. I tell anybody and everybody, it's tax season. People are getting their tax refunds and stuff. Get out there and get your passport before they increase VAT. Y'all, get your passport. So anyway, we're gonna do like 5 more tips on renting your house out. Like I said, things that I learned the hard way and the easy way, but things I learned along the way. Let me know if y'all have questions, if you've thought about this, if you would consider doing it, because it can become passive income, well, semi-passive, but you still got to do some things behind the scenes with management and all of that, which we'll talk about one of the tips today, or secondary income, or it can be your primary income. Like, let's say you're one of the few people who paid your house off. You bought it for cash, or you paid it off already, and all you have is maintenance. I mean, that's a nice chunk, especially if you're in a migration area. Like Texas is a migration area. Florida is a migration area. I think South Carolina is on the list of migration areas. Alabama is even on that list of places that are coming up. And so these are places where people are moving in droves, which means that rental prices are out the wazoo. So a place you were paying $1,200 a month may now be closer to $2,000 easy, And so you could rent out your house for supplemental income, but you got to think about a couple of things. And so last week I did my first 3 tips off the top of my head. And just some basic things I was thinking. These aren't in any particular order. I'm not like what you should do first and all that, but just some things. And the last time I talked about finding a platform, which platform you're going to use: Vrbo, Airbnb, Booking.com, yada yada, all those different things. There's so many, because now you can put your own personal homes on almost every platform. Get an accountant, someone to help you streamline what information to collect, to keep, maybe even applications to store that information, so it's easier at the end of the year to send that stuff over. I think QuickBooks is a good one. I didn't have a whole lot until I want to say it was April or May of 2021, because I didn't rent the house out until then. So I really had no income from that source, at all from the house until last year. And then the other thing is what should be rented, like specifically what should be rented. And so I'm going to talk about part 2. Part 2 is going to be, are you leaving? Okay, first, one of the first questions to ask yourself is, are you leaving to never return, or only returns sporadically, or are you just taking like a 3-month stint and then you're going to come back for 3 months, things like that. So that's like really important to kind of know, because number one, you won't make the same mistake I made, which was I was leaving just to go on a vacation and I had no timeline, but then I didn't plan appropriately back here for if I wanted to do a long-term rental. So I had a number of people ask, could they rent my house long-term, for like a year? Well, that would be fantastic. Actually, it would have been fantastic last year, but it would be fantastic. But I felt like I needed to come back and reset the house up, because one of the rooms wasn't rentable because it was storage. My car was still here. So even if I came back, I'd have to come into the house and, be in the renter space. And that's just not ideal, And so I wanted to, get my personal things, actually sorted properly, so that, I could move forward with the next steps properly. So decide if you're leaving for long term or if it's going to be, like a short term in and out. And then if it's short term, you can use it again, those platforms that I mentioned in part 1. And with those platforms, just read the fine print, read all the tax implication stuff, make sure you're keeping track of the money that you're spending. We're going to talk about some of those things. But go there first and decide if that's one of the routes that you want to take, or if you already know some people who want to do short-term rental, or you already know, you know some people in industries that do corporate rentals. Spit it out. I should do like a thing. I did something in 2010 where, I stopped cursing, right? I should do the same thing for when I say and it was put $1 in a jar for every time I use a curse word to get myself to stop cursing. It worked. I didn't really start thinking about curse words until anyway, yeah. So I'm thinking I might do that. So for every time I say I have to put a heavy penalty on to get that out of my psyche. So anyway, are you leaving to never return, or are you doing short term? So that's my first tip, is to decide what it is that you're doing on this next trip out. The next thing I would say is basically when you decide, because I guess what I would call the next one is declutter. So as part of declutter your own personal things. And what I mean by that is let's say you're keeping everything, or the structure, however the house is set up, you're gonna still be present in the house, but take a moment to go through, do that real spring or fall cleaning, the real kind, the kind where you end up with 20 bags of garbage. You know what I'm saying? And this is stuff that's in your junk drawers, stuff that's in the junk closets, the closets you didn't even know still existed. Go through that declutter phase, as well as decluttering. I have a lot of housewares and stuff like that, things for doing events and all kinds of different knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone stuff. Remember that? I don't know why that came up. Somebody, who is this? SK. Your presence in Kenya was appreciated. Oh, thank you so much. I don't know. Can you tell me your real name? Because do I know you? I would love to say hello if I knew who you really were, and I can't see the photo. I can't see what that is. But I will be back. Kenya is one of my forever homes. But thank you so much. I appreciate that. I was very welcomed in Kenya. And I definitely will be doing some more videos sharing that when I go into my backlog, y'all, because like I said, this channel is going to be focused on travel. And so I will be doing some backlog, some stuff. You'll be like, oh my God, are you in Cuba? And I'll be like, no, that was a couple years ago, but I never posted it. So anyway, declutter. I can't stress that enough, y'all. Whoo, child, because ain't nothing like being gone and knowing that you want to be gone. And when you come back, you think, oh, I'm just going to, I'll tidy up this and that and clear out stuff. And you don't even realize that you have stuff for I don't even know where this stuff came from. It just don't make no sense. And so then with that, decide. So if you've decided you're going to be gone for a longer term, a year even, right? Let's say your car is paid off, the house you got, you can afford your bills and all this stuff. But you have all of these other knick-knack things, and maybe somebody wants to do long-term rental. Do you start to sell things? What stuff should you sell? Should you sell your car? In this market, I'm people can't even find rental cars. And I think it's because most people are still doing traditional rental car, searches and stuff. But now you can do things like Turo, which I did Turo for one of my clients that stayed here at the house when I was away. but I didn't post it for everybody because I was really particular about that, even though I had like double insurance coverage. But because I wasn't here, I had to do a lot of reliance on other people to make sure that whoever's renting got the car, got the keys. And that's asking a lot. Like I was asking a lot of other people to assist me because I just didn't want to come back. And I was like, okay, you're borderline selfish at this point. And and they offered and offered. But it still wasn't, it was like, okay, if that's what you're going to do, come and set it up properly. So decide what you're going to sell. Maybe you're going to sell your furniture. Maybe you got somebody who wants to rent for a year and they got all their own stuff. Like they don't want to get, like they just went and bought the most fabulous living room set and most beautiful canopy bit, whatever. And they don't want to get rid of it. So now what are you going to do with your things? You want to rent it out. Maybe they're willing to pay whatever you're asking. So you don't want to miss this opportunity. So do you sell your things or do you put it in storage? Because if you know you're coming back, do you really want to get rid of your things? So then you start thinking about storage units. And that's one of the things I talked about, or no, that's going to be one of the things on here. And then, other knickknacks and things like that you have in the house, maybe your housewares and stuff like that. Maybe you don't need an extra microwave. Maybe they have their own washer and dryer. They got like the most elite, boom, boom, boom. And you got the beginning series level elite, and so you don't necessarily want to have to come back and buy a new washer and dryer, just things to actually start thinking about what would you sell, what would you clean out, what would you put in storage. And so that leads us to, should you get a storage or should you sell everything? So I think it really depends on the very first question, which is, are you leaving to never return, or are you leaving like for short term? That could be long term, but it's enough to decide whether or not you're going to leave all your stuff in a place like, renting it fully furnished, including fully stocked with kitchenware and all of that. Because again, like I said, some people have their own things and they like to bring their own, knickknacks with them. So should you get a storage? And so when you start thinking about storage, so this is number 4. Number 1 was decide how long you're going to be gone. Number 2, declutter. Number 3, what are you going to sell? Or and then number 4, should you get a storage or so? So they're kind of combined, I guess I should say. 3 and 4 are semi-combined. And then, with the storage unit, obviously, when you're doing this, the whole point is to start to decrease your expenses, right? So the nice thing about long-term rentals is you can cut off the Wi-Fi, you can cut off the electricity, you can cut off the water, meaning cut it off in your name. And your renter, if it's not part of what you're offering, then has to put those things in their name, which decrease your overhead, right? So then all you're responsible for is the shell, which is the mortgage. And then whatever insurance you have for your car and, house insurance and that kind of thing. And that is ideally where I want it to be, but I never actually got there. Like, I was doing the short-term rentals, and one of the eye catchers with short-term rentals is to have Wi-Fi and, all that data and stuff like that. And so I was paying, even when no one was living here, for over a year and almost a year and a half. A year before I started renting out the house, over $100 a month for Wi-Fi, which included the phone. I had already cut off the television, but it included the voice over IP phone, which you're like, shouldn't that be cheap? So I thought it was super high. In my opinion, it was over $100, whatever, a month. And so, that's $1,200. That $1,200 is let me do quick calculation. It was like about 3 or 4 months of a rental minimum. If I found a $600 a month apartment, which I would consider high end if I'm going to do a long-term rental, that's still 2 to 3 months right there. That would have covered me being abroad, and so just at least paying for my accommodations. So I was thinking about those kinds of things, right? And so, if you do short-term rental, you really need to have those kinds of things. Most people, I may not click any other filter except high-speed Wi-Fi. Now, one of the things I will say, depending on where you go, United States, you're not really going to get it. But, well, I shouldn't say that. There are now companies, since I've been paying attention over the last probably 6 months that are rolling out housing options that are like $50 or less. Like I know T-Mobile has like a hotspot kind of thing, which I think is probably similar to what I had in Kenya, where you buy the box. Like I had a box sitting here. Like you buy the whatever the box is called, the router thingy, right? And you could plug it in anywhere. I could like take, because it's got a SIM card in it. So I could like take it to a restaurant with me. I could take it anywhere because I was paying for the SIM card. And then that way you literally have data anywhere you go, right? So that's an option. Certain places have fantastic data. I was in Southeast Asia and I paid $12 a month. It was less than 12, it was $11.87 a month for unlimited. When I say unlimited, I'm talking about 4G, 5G unlimited. It was mostly 4G, but unlimited data. So I never had to worry about running out of data, where I had to like mentally pay attention to how much I was using, turn my data on and off when I was in Kenya right before that. And even in Tanzania, I spent a lot in Tanzania. So just being mindful how much data I was using. I didn't even think about it when I went to Thailand. So it always just depends. But to be able to cut like some of that stuff off, that really decreases, what you're paying for. And so when you think of a storage unit, how much are you going to pay for a storage unit? What are you putting in the storage unit? Should you keep everything, or should you start to sell stuff? Like I was saying, cars, furniture, all these other knickknacks that you'll find in these closets. So start going through that process. And I remember somebody telling me, oh man, it took like 3 months to really clear out, and they were completely exiting. And so it took them a little, and I was like, really? Man, it would take me like a month. Let me just tell you. I guess if I was like 100% like doing it 24/7, I could like, when you're forced into something and you got to get it done, you'll get it done in no time. I've done way more with less time before, but I got this little bit of, I feel like a cushion, but it's not really, because everything goes up May 1st because of all the increases here in the States. So, the mortgage base, everything goes up. And I'm just like, no, I'm not, what? We got to figure this out. And so just trying to weigh, like if you're on a budget and you want to stay on a budget while you're traveling, you want to stay on a budget back home, you want to think about, when you're adding more expenses, are you covering the extra expenses with some sort of income, whether it's that rental income or, like I was talking about before, what other digital opportunities you may come across, right? And so think about that, because some of these units are pretty inexpensive, but then depending on how much space you need, like if you want a 10 by 20, you're in the 200s. The high 180s and stuff like that, at least in Texas. So I don't know how much it is other places. So just be mindful of that, that you're taking on another expense, and then the insurance that's included with that, right? So the storage unit is number 4. And then number 5, I think this is going to be, so this one's kind of the little bit longer, is when you're thinking about renting out your home, decide if you're going to be able to manage that, or if you need to if you need to hire a management company. Oh, let me tell you, I was so blessed because I did this, like I said, all on a whim. I was in Tanzania at the time, and one of my brothers was staying at my house because he would do his quarantines here at my house, and then before visiting our parents and stuff like that. So just trying to maintain being safe around anyone who could be vulnerable. And so my house was always open to him. And then we started talking about, how's the house? Do you feel like it's rentable? Like, would you be comfortable? And so we were like, oh yeah, let's do it. So I got had someone come and install a Bluetooth lock, install a keyless lockbox. They put that on the house, and put some extra locks on the storage rooms that I knew I didn't want anyone in. Extra deadbolt locks on the garage, because I had other personal things in there, so I'd have to put money. Y'all, was that my first since I said that? Because that's like only $1. What? So I started doing all of those things, and then like little things around the house. Like I knew little things that needed little touch-ups, and oh, then you got to buy all new sheets. For me, I was like, yeah, you got to get all new sheets for the people who are going to be renting, and then you got to get all towel sets. And so then I was like, okay, well, do you get colored cat towels or white? And I went, because I'm just trying to think, for someone who's washing. At that time, I had hired a service to do my laundry, or not do the laundry, to come clean the house. And then I was like, okay, well, do you guys also do laundry and make the beds? Because that's kind of a lot to ask my brother. That's like not his realm of expertise. He's in front of a microphone and doing different, business, like things like that. And so I had to go through a process of elimination, because I found out my housekeepers were not actually changing the sheets. And luckily and I'd only used them like 3 times. So the last time I was made aware, I always have a walkthrough of my house before I have someone rent it. And my neighbor would do the walkthrough. She wasn't doing any other work for me. She would just come over and do the walkthrough. And so I'm always aware if things have been cleaned or not. It's pretty easy to tell. And so that's when we discovered, yeah, they weren't. They were making the beds as if it was a hotel. And so in that particular time was the only time I had an issue with them, and I had to call them back. And, they even farm out services. So it was like you're paying for a service, but then they're paying somebody else to do the service who isn't even like really their staff. And so, had to go through that process. And I think that may have been, I ended up having to cancel a rental. So it's like little things like that. And it's like not being established or deciding enough what I was going to do or how long I was going to be gone. So I didn't know how long I can do rentals. And so number one, the management company. Are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to put the things in place that you need that you can monitor and manage yourself? And I actually have an app for the lock. So I could actually lock and unlock from wherever I was in the world, as long as I had Wi-Fi. Godsend. And then also I had an access to manage the temperature. So the heat and AC, I could manage virtually, from anywhere. So if I noticed that it was being left on or it was running really high or something like that, or not on auto, because some people would come and push the button, put it on. So it's literally running 24 hours a day and never cutting off. That is expensive, y'all, especially in Texas. So those things start to add up. So it's really like, really paying attention to that budget and where you need to put in the necessary precautions or necessary tools or whatever, so that you can manage from afar in case you don't have anybody. So like if my brothers couldn't come here and, somebody who is doing a short-term rental, they get here and they can't get in, which we had that happen a couple of times, I could actually push the button until I couldn't push the button. So that's why like these things started to come up, and there was just an issue in here and an issue there, and they were so far apart, but when they happen, it just seems like a cluster of things, and it becomes just like, how do I address this? And so luckily my next door neighbor decided, she was like, I used to clean, let me see if I can still do it. I don't, after you haven't done something in 10 years or whatever, you might be like, do I want to do that again? And, blessings. I'm so grateful for them. I paid her actually more than what I paid somebody else, because she also ended up being my property manager. And she came in and did all my inventory sheets, because I had bought all the stuff, coffee and sugar packets, shampoo and conditioner packets, toothbrush with toothpaste, little, individual thingies, make, just little things for the guests when they're here, in case somebody forgets a toothbrush. How many times have you traveled and literally forgotten your toothbrush, and you couldn't get out that night to go to the local 7-Eleven to get a toothbrush? And so just having some of those things there, I think, for me, it was important for me to have that stuff in the house. And so buying all of that stuff, and then batteries. I'm gonna tell you, if you gonna rent your place out, make sure you have spare AA and AAA batteries inside the house, because you're always gonna run out when you don't expect it, because you're not there, right? And so stuff like that. But needing somebody who was familiar, who I was comfortable with, to come in and do things. And then I would have to send her into the I don't know what I want to call it, but the room with all the stuff in a storage room. And sometimes you got to be able to trust the person that is in your house, to respect all the stuff you got in your house, and whatever. And I trusted her 100%. She was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need you to go in there and look for something or whatever." And and then we moved the stuff to a closet. We put a lock on the closet with all of her supplies, so we weren't running out of laundry soap, and which is it just disappears. You have a huge thing of Tide like that, and in 1 week it's gone. It's like, how is that even possible, right? So, making sure that we had cleaning supplies completely separate from what the guests could use. And so you're not thinking about all this duplication of stuff that you have. And I've been in places that did bare minimum. They may have looked really nice, but you have one fork, one spoon, stuff like that. And then also being cognizant of the fact that people can sometimes be really nasty, or unthoughtful, and some of my requirements were, you got to leave it the way you found it, right? So yeah, I do ask that you wash your own dishes and put them in the dish rack, and where did I get that from? Because I stayed at a number of Airbnbs that required or requested that. And I don't know why that's a big deal to ask, but I hear people that complain about, cleaning up after themselves. And the reason that is, and I'll just shed a little light on this subject for those who want to be Airbnbers, is most cleaning places, especially with you, if you're a one Airbnb owner, one property Airbnb owner or something like that, or you have them in different locations, you can't monopolize on how hotels have 50 rooms. And so, the overall cost is like $5 a room. No, you're paying a minimum of 125, maybe 110 per cleaning. Or if you get a package deal with some of these services, they would charge like $300 a month minimum. So you at least want 3 cleanings, right? So what if you only have one rental? Now you've paid $300 for this one rental. And what if the person either doesn't leave, or they leave? And so that's 2 cleanings for $300, it becomes $150. Or if you only have one cleaning that month because somebody decides they're going to extend for 2 months, if you allow them, and now you pay $300 for one cleaning. So, you got to put all of that kind of stuff into perspective. But that's I think I just said twice. All right, John, I got to get the dollar jar, because we're gonna work on on that part. But having the property manager, again, having the property manager there or available, and she's bam, right here. Anything that went wrong, or if the guest couldn't get in, she could come and troubleshoot, get all the extra keys and all that kind of stuff, because we didn't use the lockbox, we used the keyless entry. So I had to make sure that all the keys were labeled, and just different things that you don't necessarily, because it wasn't necessary when I left. I was going to rent the house out to somebody I knew. And so I was okay. I was just like, hey, when you get finished with these things, put them in this area. I also left up certain sporting equipment that I would not have left up. Y'all have a power pole, and that was up in a room. I can't rent the house out with that. First of all, it's a liability. So I had to have my brothers try to take this pole down. It was just like, how the heck did you get this pole up? And it's a portable pole, but I had it in good, like it was in good. But I was like, yeah, we can't have the pole up. So I had to pull the pole down. But it's great exercise. So all my exercise equipment needed to go into the garage because you don't want those types of liabilities. Airbnb will ask you if you have firearms in the house. So if you do, you either need to secure those some sort of way, state that you have them, or remove them from the home. What are the precautions? I actually had a lot of Asian art, and I had the swords, like I had the 3 swords in the living room, and I didn't know that they had taken those down until I got home, and I didn't see them on the wall because I didn't think about it. Stuff that has been up there for the last 8 years. And so I didn't even think about it. And I was like, oh yeah, because that's a liability too. You don't want knives on the wall when you got people staying in your house. So all of these different things, that I didn't think about because I hadn't planned on long-term, and I hadn't planned on anybody I didn't know being in my home. In addition to pillow cover, which I already had the pillow covers, and I already had mattress covers. But for my master bedroom, I have like a 13 or so inch deep. It might even be more than that because I feel like even those don't fit. Like, in addition to buying the sheets, buying an additional mattress cover because the one I have it's a sleeve, so it's a zip up. I can't ask anybody to pull that mattress out of the platform, take the whole, snugly, because it fits on the mattress off every single time that there is a cleaning. So I bought another mattress pad, the one that's just like a fitted sheet, to put over that one. All these kinds of little things, right? I even had someone, I have like French presses and those other, percolating but not percolating coffee pots that you put right on the stove. And she wanted a real coffee maker. And I was like, I'm not buying a coffee maker. There's 3 things in there that you can make coffee with. And I had a whole container of instant coffee, sugar, and tea sitting on the countertop. And she was just like, you didn't make it accommodating. You didn't have coffee, and you didn't have a coffee maker. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not buying a coffee maker for one guest. It was like the only person that ever asked for, a coffee maker. And so, little things like that you can try to figure out how critical or, how important it's going to be for your guests. So what are you going to include? What's the percentage for a property management company to manage your property? And then like I say, what's the inclusions? What are they going to cover for you? Are they going to make sure that the cleaning is done? No, typically not. Typically a management company schedules your maintenance. So like they oversee your lawn care, they don't pay for it, but like, unless you kind of agree like, hey, I'm going to give you this and that. But now they have apps where I just schedule someone to come out every 2 weeks. And when they physically arrive and complete the job, mark it complete, they actually get paid, right? So I don't even have to like take money out of a bank account, put it into a petty cash, or, prepay whoever is managing the property for me to go and pay these things, and so you still have it all recorded. So everything actually is in the apps, and actually at the end of the year, I can print that out. So that's another one of those bookkeeping things. There's again, dang it, I think I'm at like $6, y'all. So then you have to figure out, well, who's going to do your cleaning? Who's going to do your inventory? Who's going to be your access point? So when a guest can't get in, who's going to do that? So let's say the management company charges you 6% per rental or per month. I don't even know what they would base it on. Maybe if it's your rent or whatever. I haven't used one. And then so you have that expense, and then you still have an expense likely for cleaning, for the lawn care, the house repairs. All that stuff is obviously going to be separate either way, whether you manage it yourself or not. But you're adding on to that to have somebody clean. And I ended up being able to get someone who did all of my cleaning, did all of my inventory, my access, and just let me know when things weren't looking so great or whatever. And so those are like, for today, those are like some of the main tips that I would say to start thinking about is how long you're going to be gone, start to declutter, decide what you're going to sell, decide what's going to go in storage, or and not just sell, y'all. I forgot charity too. Don't forget charity organizations. This is the best time to donate to some of the ones that you think are best. And most of the stuff that I initially took went to a women's shelter, and all women and children's shelter in Dallas. And now I just have so much stuff. I made so many runs and trips. I actually have a pickup tomorrow for the kidney organization. They actually do pickups, and like Ambits does pickups too. So all the rest of this stuff, I'm like so done with it. I can't fit anything else in my car. I don't want to drive back and forth and stuff like that. So I'm going to do some of those truck pickups. So that's another way. That's another part of, like, if you're decluttering and you create your pile. So you got to keep pile. LK, you said you have a glass cabinet with Japanese short swords in my leg. Why do I have 2 glass cabinets? And then, you know, the other part is this, what do I sell? Like, so my kids have come in and decided what they wanted. And so it's like, do I start getting rid of stuff, you know, because I've got potential long-term renters. So just trying to see what people need and want. But it's stuff that I was going to get rid of anyway. But just to see if there's some people who actually may want some of the stuff, or send it to charity. And, you know, you can always get your little tax receipt and that kind of thing, which I didn't. The first 3 loads that I took, did I take the first 3 loads I took had women's clothes mostly, like a lot of my son's stuff that was still here. And he ain't lived with me, and he didn't live with, okay, yeah, no, not here. Still a kid. Anyway, it's been a long time. So I had stuff that had migrated over from Chicago, and I found all that stuff in the attic, and I was just like, what is this? Like, I even have a drop ceiling lamp that goes over my pool table. So I have a pool table. Technically, I gave it to my parents. It's at their house. And I don't even want it back. I'm like, yeah, at one point I wanted it because I had 2 living rooms. So I was going to put it in the other room. And I'm glad I didn't get it back, because that would be one more thing that I'd have to, you know, make kind of concessions for somebody coming in, even if they bought it, knowing how to take it apart. And it's a slate table. So, I mean, it weighs 2 tons, you know, stuff like that. And so just having all of these things that I found, and, you know, like I said, the light. And so there's some things that I am going to sell, but just deciding what goes to charity, what you're going to keep. If you're in the process of deciding, you know, you're kind of trying to figure out, okay, how to make some income, and you're planning on, like, if you leave, you don't want to come back, start doing your, if you haven't, start doing your declutter, start making your little list of stuff now, because you'll be like, you got your mindset, because I was like, I had my mindset, I wanted to be gone before June, and I called it, these prices skyrocket after May 31st, because it's summertime and everybody's opening up, and, you know, COVID is, the talk of COVID has, you know, settled quite a bit in the last like month specifically. And so a lot of people are getting out here and traveling. So these prices are skyrocketing. So let's say you've already decided, you're like, okay, no matter what, I'm buying a ticket. I've already prepaid for an apartment. I don't know, you know, some people do that. I would, you know, whatever, to each his own. And it kind of depends on where you're going. And if you're like going back to a place, like if I go to Kenya, like I know where I'd likely stay unless I was in a different city or something like that. So I likely have my accommodations already accounted for. So you could do things like, you know, kind of pre-planning in advance, but let's say you have it all planned and you're like, okay, I'm going to be out of here by July. And then you start going through stuff and you realize it's going to take so much more time to go through, and, you know, you hate to miss your departure date because it took a lot more effort. So if you can, start doing it now. I tell anybody, if you're ready, start decluttering. And I didn't even think about this before, because I always thought that, you know, I would be in this house, family members or somebody would be in this house. I never thought about it being like a short-term rental. I never did. It just wasn't something, which is kind of silly, but I think it was because of my attachment. And I kind of want to talk about that one day, is this crazy unspoken attachment. And I think it's really an American thing. You know, it's a Western world thing, but specifically American. Like, we get possessions, and not everybody, but I know I have it. And I didn't even think about it until, like, even now I'm cleaning out things and I'm keeping little knickknacks. Like, I can't go and buy, you know, and part of it's like, I hate to duplicate something I already have. So let's say you have like 10 screwdrivers. Why would I give them all away? So it's like, there will be one little tool thing in my storage because I don't need all the stuff, but I don't want to go and buy a new hammer and a screwdriver, you know, when I do come home and, you know, need to fix something or whatever. So just kind of think about those kinds of things, because I know I will be back and forth here just to see my grandkids, my son and my brothers, my parents, stuff like that, you know, if they aren't visiting me yet. But specifically, I have a brand new grandbaby, and my grandson is only 7 years old. Well, he'll be 8 in a few days. And so just to make sure that, you know, I get to see them on a regular, or at least as they're growing, you know, they get to see their around the world Mimi. I'm going to be there around the way, Mimi, like in my LL Cool J voice. So, yeah, those are the things that I would tip next, not in any particular order, but, you know, just 5 more tips should you rent that house out and travel, and you know, rent or sell. Market's great for selling right now, but if you don't sell, market's great for renting too. Market is great for renting. And you can rent at a great rate and still be less than, you know, some of these apartment complexes, you know. So, y'all, it's exciting. This is an exciting time. If you guys have other questions and things like that, let me know in the chat. I may go live again a little bit later because I actually wanted to talk about kind of it's more of a relationship or an emotional type thing. And I've been wanting to get back into, you know, the emotional health part and the social engagement part of travel, and something that, you know, was really, really important to me in my travels, wherever I've been, is connecting with people. It can make or break you if you don't end up making quality connections and you're trying to stay somewhere long term. Even if you're like you know, hermit type person, like I'm a person where I love my privacy, like I love being alone. But I also love being around people too. And I go through phases. Like 1 minute I could be around a bunch of people, and the next minute I could be by myself for even longer, you know. And that's something I guess we got from upbringing. But you know, when you're traveling, that's one of the things, when you don't have family and friends that you're used to, but you're willing to go out there and meet the world and make new connections. How do you do that? So I think I want to do something about, you know, a little bit more about that, and kind of feeding into some of the extra stresses that women take on specifically, and maybe like things that people don't, you know, we take for granted, or people take these things for granted regarding us as women. So there's so much more content. So if there's specific things that you guys are worried about when you're traveling, things that, you know, cross your mind and you're just like, God, how am I gonna, you know, overcome this, or what do I do, or I'm not gonna go because I ain't gonna have this, that, and the other, or whatever. abroad, shoot me a message, comment down below, and in the chat. And who knows, I will, if it's something that I can share some insight on, I'll definitely do a video on it, because that social part of it, the humanitarian part, the livelihood part, is just as important as the financial aspect, as the preparedness part that we have to go through. The social part is way up here, even if it's from a standpoint of, you're going to go live in the mountains by yourself, but at some point you got to like have the communication skills and ability to connect with people, even in isolation, because if you need something, you got to have a connection base. And one thing I'll say before I jump off here is, maybe I'll do a video on like safety for women's safety abroad, because there's a number of things I think that we don't think about. And I'll tell you, a lot of times, like, I think about a lot of things, but I sometimes do things that people think might be haphazard being solo. And I kind of look back at some things, and when people are talking, I'm just like, I would still do that again. But I'm always like looking over my shoulder anywhere. I look over my shoulder in the States. But once I'm comfortable, I have a certain thing that I go through to make myself visible, so the rest of the community expects to see me. So when they don't, like, I literally in Kenya would have people, if I went a different route, I had somebody walk up to me and was like, "Oh, you are walking on the streets. You normally are on the beach." And I didn't know this person from Adam, because there's no way I can identify everybody that has seen me, especially if they haven't walked up. And even if he walked up today, I wouldn't know who he was. And so, so people watch you and stuff like that. So, it's important to kind of establish yourself in certain ways. And actually, I think I do talk about that in my course. That's one of the last modules, is on social engagement and emotional health, and how to manage that, and stay on top of it. So, because we all go through depressive states. I mean, like I said, I talked a couple times about realizing that I was in a depressive state when I was in Tanzania. And identifying is the first thing, but how do you get out of it? And what are some of the things that you need to kind of balance yourself out? And so I share some of those things in the course that I have. So anyway, all of that stuff is in the description below. Once this uploads, you'll have access, or you can just go click on one of my other videos and you'll get access to my travel course, if you would be so inclined to purchase that and get all that information. That would be fantastic. I appreciate you guys ever so greatly. You guys like this content, and it's something that you can use, or someone else can use it. Hit the like button, please. Likes matter. They do. They really do matter. Likes matter, just like commercials matter, y'all. So hit that like button and the subscription button and the little bell. So when you click on subscribe, you'll get a bell that says all, a bell that says personal, which I don't even know what you can select for that. And then one that says none. If you don't want to be notified at all, but click the one that's for all, so you get all the notifications, right, when I'm going live. And then, comment in some of these and let me know what's stressing you and straining you. I'm really going to be focusing on getting more travel content out there for my travelpreneurs of the world who are out here trying to do things. And I've only been to 26, 27 countries or something like that. And some of these I've been to multiple times already. So I'm actually going to try to spread my wings this next rollout. But yeah, I want to be able to share things that are important to you guys, things that resonate with you, things that might be helpful for you on your journey. Again, my next set of courses is going to be, more of the vulnerability and the humanitarian things. There's going to be a couple modules specific to Black women and what we should make sure we carry, things to think about when we are traveling abroad. But it's going to be for everyone, but there's got to be one about like the things that we need when we travel. Like if you're a protective style person, hair, types of brushes, things that you're just not gonna find what you're used to. You can definitely adapt, but some hair textures don't adapt very well when you're trying to wear certain styles, and you need certain types of rubber bands, and they don't have them. It's just things that I can just give a huge list of things to make sure that you potentially stick in that bag when you are going to do some long-term travel. So if you guys have any questions about those things, please let me know. I am here for you, and I'm going to get out of here. Let me just make sure you guys haven't said anything else on the page. If I can get this to open up. Oops. So yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I can't even see the comments. It's not even showing them anymore. I don't know what's going on with this phone. Oh, there it is. Hey Anthony, I'm sorry. I just saw your stuff. Rent is averaging around $2,200. Where do you live? If you're still on, I'm not sure if you're still listening or not. But yeah, let me think. Somebody told me in Dallas that I think they have a 1-bedroom apartment that's going up to $2,000. And so how do you handle it when you're feeling down, not having family around? Oh, that's a good question. Thank you. So I'll hold on before I drop off and answer that. For me, I am a kind of a gypsy spirit of, I create, connections with different people. So let me start with this. If I am specifically feeling lonely about, missing certain people, I get on FaceTimes and Zooms and, Instagram videos or whatever. That's first and foremost. One of the amazing things that we have is technology. So yeah, you might not physically have somebody, but a year, 2 years, have gone by where specifically the end of 2020, middle of 2020 on to the end, and then 2021, you weren't really touching people anyway. Like we were keeping distance, and we weren't supposed to be. I know in the United States we did whatever we wanted to do, but trying to stay away from people who are vulnerable. At that time, my parents are older, and so you got to be really careful with their health and stuff like that. So doing video chats is a perfect way. And you can even set up like a time that you're going to meet every week or once a month, if that's enough for you. If you're a person that sees your parents or something every day, and you crave that hug or whatever, like dogs, when you come home and they just crave to jump all over you and stuff like that, like, they get sad just as well. It could be a pet depression. Decide if you can take your pet with you, or like I said, do that FaceTime. That is really helpful. What's really cool is if you set up something like Georgia. Oh, you're in Georgia. Okay. Nice. So is it cold? Because it's cold in Texas. It's not supposed to be like this right now. You see, I got on pants and shirt, and it's dry, so I'm itchy. My skin is itchy because it's dry. And hair is dry. Anyway, so that's one of the first things I say is establish a video kind of conferencing, telecommunication schedule so that you'll be talking to them, not just text, because sometimes like if they don't answer and stuff like that, that can become nerve-wracking. It's like, where's everybody at? How come nobody's responding? I mean, I've done that a couple times. I'll be like, hey, I haven't seen, mom and dad found out, her number changed, and she had sent me something, but it went somewhere else. So I couldn't see it in the normal flow because it was a new number, and, I had reached out, just different things. So like if people aren't responding, then sometimes we get a little anxious and people ain't responding quick enough. So if you set up a schedule in advance, like, hey, I'm leaving, you guys are the ones that I want to talk to. With girlfriends, it could be, movie night, Well, I used to do this actually before I left, and we had a standing movie night, and it was what did I call it? Heels and cocktails. And we'd be in pajamas. Most of the time we'd be in pajamas with heels on. You pick whichever heels you're wearing that night. And we'd have our cocktails and we'd all turn a movie on. We didn't do like a one group and like you scan it or whatever. Everybody would start the movie at the same time and we'd all watch the same movie together in our own respective houses on Zoom so we could see each other. We could pause for a minute and like have some commentary or be typing in chat, so it was fun. That was when COVID first hit, that's before I left in July of 2020. So you could do things like that. Like if it's with your boys and you normally, play sports, find some sport activities when you're abroad. But one of the other things I say is if you're starting to miss friends and family is to get active. So what are the things that you like to do? It's in the 70s. Oh, that's kind of cold. 70, it's 70 here. It's cold. You're like, it's in the 70s. That's cold to me. I've been in 80, 90 weather for a year and a half. So the only place it was cold for me was Nairobi. And that's because I went from 90 to 60 and it was ice cold. Like my hands are cold. My house is colder than it is outside. I do know that. But this morning I was outside and it was cold. It was cold and it rained last night. But anyway, let me get back. So one of the things I talk about in my social engagement module is utilizing social media for something that is beneficial to you. And that is join these groups, join these travel groups that are specific to your niche. Join groups, like if you're doing meetup is still free, y'all. Most of it, like some people charge for their groups and stuff like that. But if you join some meetups that are specific to an area that you're going in, and let's say you love coffee or you love reading or you love mountain climbing or whatever, they have a group for it. They probably do. You like to have your wine and you like to have it with people because you don't want to be drinking by yourself. Join a wine and reading group or a wine hangout group or a sports event group or a group who goes and plays rugby or soccer or football or whatever. Like they could meet and hey, we're going to be meeting up here, or start one yourself. You could start like join these specific groups for the areas you want to go to. And say, I did the same thing as how I ended up meeting this fantastic group of people in Thailand. I was like, I joined Brothers and Sisters of Thailand and I posted in there, hey, I'm going to be in Phuket area. Don't know how long I was going to be there. I plan on being there 2 weeks. I stayed for 2 months. And I was like, anybody in this area want to meet up, hang out, whatever. Ended up meeting a fantastic group of people. And that was history. When I was in Portugal, I did a meetup and it was a Portuguese to English and English to Portuguese, like, people kind of helping each other or speak the language kind of group. And it was really awesome. I met this girl there. She's actually from Atlanta area. She moved to Portugal that year. So that was the first year I met her, was in 2018. So she had moved there in 2018. We ended up hanging out that night. We walked from the meetup spot to down right in the main downtown part area. She had worked at this bar, so we went there, we had some drinks, we walked around, whatever, and just like literally hung out and had a great time. And then I went back and we kept in touch for a year, and I went back in 2019. We made sure we linked up, saw each other, hung out, just walking around the courtyard, had a couple, a glass of wine or whatever. All the power had gone out. It was some weird stuff. And then but we still keep in touch to this day. So even though there are times like I could literally, I think I went probably 4 or 5 months without, sending her a message or whatever. And I was back in the States or coming back. And I was like, oh my God, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Plus I lost all my WhatsApp contacts. Crazy. Anyway. And, we just jump back in as if we hadn't. So the main thing is keep communication open. If there are certain people that you definitely want to or need to stay in contact with. And then, even consider, like, if you're going somewhere where people can visit, inviting them out to visit you. And I know that's a little bit harder. That one's a little bit tougher to do. But when I was in Tulum, 3 people came to visit me in Tulum, y'all. Let me just tell you. And it was awesome. But after the last person, I was like, okay, I'm done. If it's not my brothers, can't nobody else stay. Because then I realized I needed, and it was back to back to back to back people. And I realized I needed my time. I needed my personal space and stuff like that. So, but it was nice. So, those are some of the things that I would, that I would suggest are ways for you to communicate or kind of be stimulated. The other way, this is something that's in my course, is through body movement. So I'm big on yoga. Y'all already know I'm a yoga guide. So I teach yoga, and getting in tune with your mental space, your body, your, it's kind of a healing aspect. And when you start to get in tune with yourself, kind of quieting yourself, because you won't always have external stimulation. Most of the time, the only thing that we can't count on is our own stimulation. And if you are in a depressive state, if you're a person who gets depressed, you also know there are times you can't even count on yourself. Right. And so building up that kind of structure and that foundation using yoga and meditation is very high on my list. And I mean, when I say doing yoga, I'm not talking about, like, people are like, Ali, I can't do handstands. And I'm like, I don't always do handstands. But for me, inversions releases all my stress. If I can go upside down, which is why I bought a yoga trapeze, all of that. If I can go upside down, like, literally, it just like drops everything out. But I found that is what worked really, really well for me. And so once you find what works, some people is literally sitting in a meditative state, or it's lying on their back in a meditative state, but just clearing their mind of everything. Sometimes it's holding a specific pose or doing a basic yoga floor. Sometimes it's an all-out sweat, like, they really, that's how they truly need to get in touch with themselves. And for me, one of the other personality things that I know, but it was just, this last 20 months made it so clear, was I had to have sun. I had to have sun. So getting outside, whether it was sitting on my balcony or walking around, that was something that helped me manage just where was I going next, what was I doing, needing clear space to actually think. So I have some other examples and stuff, but I have a lot of that stuff in my course too. But I'll be talking about more and more of it, because I'm going to really start getting into, traveling is great, all the things that I did, but I did very basic everyday things, like as if I was living in a place, and, kind of like a backtrack vlog almost of the days that I would just spend sitting on a rock. I have all my stuff with me, but like, that was my peace. That was, my calm. And it was kind of like my doorway into, all the things that I felt like I needed to kind of either discover, work through, meditate on, work that I needed to get done, like finding that single place of focus. So anyway, hopefully that is helpful, Anthony. Thank you for the question. It might have gone on longer than you really wanted, but there's always cool things. So yeah, the information for my travel course is going to be in the description below. If you guys are inclined to click on it, that is awesome. Please leave your feedback. I always am eager to hear it, see it, and chat with you about it. And I'm going to get out of here. This time I don't see any other new comments on here. Let me see if it's updated. Thank you so much. Anthony, you do the same. Hopefully I'll see you guys out here in the air, in these clouds one of these days. But you guys know the drill. Toodles and noodles, peace and hair grease. Let's see if I have to stop this way.